Welcome on into another edition of Cleanpin. This is episode 30 of Cleanpin, and what we do here is we talk all things wrestling, WWE, TNA, NWA, AEW, MLW, of course, everything and anything under the sun. News, rumors, speculations, and I do other wrestling videos here throughout the week. Trying out that Streamlabs. So I did a Backlash thoughts pay-per-view. I'm trying to go live, trying to get apparently I was using the microphone for my for my laptop, which is not apparently not the greatest, because the audio did not come out the greatest, and we need to adjust that. We need to fix that video. But if you pull up the volume very, very low, you could faintly hear something. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do streaming. We're trying to go live. We're trying to do all that good stuff. Trying to do all that good stuff. And we're going to take it one day at a time. Apparently what I need to do first is to get a decent microphone to step my game up. Maybe I could even do that today. But anyway, this Cleanpin, it's episode 30. Usually comes out on a really no set day here. It's usually supposed to be another thing. Gotta make this kind of pick a date and go with it, stick with it. But it was on Thursdays. Now it's anywhere from Friday to on the weekend to even a Monday, like we have here. So we're heading into Monday Night Raw today, the aftermath of the Backlash pay-per-view. And with the Backlash pay-per-view, with the main I said it said it in my last video. I'll say it now, being that the audio wasn't the greatest. Was it the greatest wrestling match ever? No. But it was a good wrestling match. Is it maybe the top 10? I mean, the top 10, do you put this match in the category of Steamboat and Flair? Do you put it in the category of Brett, Shawn? Do you put it in the category of Shawn, Undertaker? Do you put it in the category of Austin, Hart? Not in my opinion. Would you say it's top 15, top 20 matches of all time? You gotta really think about that one. Is it a match that's worth seeing again? I'd probably tell you yes. I could probably tell you easily, maybe even top 3 match, as far as in this quarantine era, maybe. Quarantine era, since March, and who knows when we'll get the audiences and all that stuff back. The piped in crowd audience. I know football was trying to do that, or at least that's what they planned on doing. Maybe it's going to work for football. My opinion, when you had just piping in crowd noise without having an actual crowd is just weird. But what was as weird as well is you have an audience there, you're piping in crowd noise, and the noise doesn't match the audience there. So it almost made it, really kind of, cheesy to me. Lost its effect, lost its luster. I could appreciate what they were doing. They're trying to make something work, trying to be innovative. This is a different time. This is a different era. No one, if you asked a million people, no one would tell you, oh, they would expect anything like this to happen. So, yeah, but the rest of that video is up there. You just really gotta turn up the volume and hear it. Apologize, I'm gonna get a mic. I'm trying to put this together. Trying to really amp up the channel because I think the channel should definitely be up there. I have a lot of content, sports, and baseball and football and basketball, vintage baseball, and I'm just gonna really rev it up. And I think streaming live on certain occasions would definitely help. But that's Backlash. Just wanted to give that thought there. And the news, a major news coming out of Backlash is that Edge apparently is injured. What they're saying, it's a tricep injury, and when I say they, it's dirt sheets. What they're saying that it was leaked. That WWE has been trying to keep it under wraps, being that the match was recorded. You didn't hear anything from the WWE yet. You haven't heard anything from Edge. Do I think he was injured? Listen, I was watching that match and I realized that some of it was edited. It was a 40-something minute match. I don't know how much they edited, but splice and do certain things. I'm sure you could do that. I'm sure that's maybe what they've done in the match. Some of the angles of during that match were awkward. I'll give you that. So I could see it's probably where some editing was done. But again, based on what was seen on TV, I didn't, and this is just me, a regular Joe Schmo, I really didn't see anywhere where Edge got injured. So that's why I think this might be just kind of a kayfabe injury, so to speak, just to kind of write him off TV. Because you remember, he does not have the schedule that every wrestler has. It's limited days. So he could be only working like the major pay-per-views and one or two in between. So the next pay-per-view will be SummerSlam. August? So this is like a way maybe to write him off TV. They write Brock Lesnar off TV. That's when they write him off, is every time he loses a championship. You don't see him for a couple of months. He comes back and he gets a title shot. That's how it works. But yeah, I think this might be. We didn't hear anything from Edge himself or the WWE. Maybe that comes down tonight. I could very well see that this maybe be some type of a kayfabe injury. If in fact it is a real injury to Edge, it varies and it all depends, I guess, on the body type and it varies from person to person how long you're out. It could be anywhere from 4 to 8 months, right? But he could still be on TV while he's depends if he needs surgery, if he doesn't need surgery, but maybe he's still able to be on TV, cut promos, and advance the storyline that way, be involved somehow that way through promos. I don't think that this would be the end of Edge and his comeback off of a triceps injury, because I think, if you remember, when he came back, his promo was saying that he wants to end it on his terms. He wanted to end it on his way. So, if in fact he is injured, I don't think that he would call it quits and just retire, because it would go against everything that he just said a few months ago when he came back, that he wants to end it on his terms. So if in fact he is injured, I think he would rehab, do whatever he needs to do, Just don't over push yourself. Don't over exert yourself. You don't want to get another injury on the injury that you're trying to already combat. And I think you will see him back. I think you will see him back. Like I said with that match, I think they kind of did everything in reverse. I said this in the prior video too. Again, try to put up the volume on that video. I'm sure you're going to be able to hear it. I think they did everything in reverse. I think they should have had the match that they had yesterday. That should have been the match that they had at WrestleMania. For everyone that doesn't know who Edge is, who being introduced to Edge in the first time, or people that forgot Edge, you put that type of performance that you put on yesterday at WrestleMania, automatically, right off the bat. Not that you need a justification, being a Hall of Famer is already justification, but people that are seeing him for the first time are like, wow, okay, this guy's maybe 46, 47 years old, but he could still go. He could still go. And that, I think, would have been impressive, had they done it that way. But, who am I? I'm just a regular Joe, regular Joe. Speaking of injuries, actually, let's just stay on Randy Orton. Randy Orton took a jab at Tommaso Ciampa, kind of a little Twitter exchange there. Basically insinuating that the NXT guys, talented guys, all they do is floppity floops. And they take pretty much, and Orton saying that he could probably wrestle till he's 50. He's 40 now. And I believe that. I believe these guys. They think that you need to really just. I think these guys they think that they need to do all this extravagant, over the top, aerodynamic stuff to wrestle. When you look at Randy Orton, he doesn't do that, top rope stuff. He's very methodical, and that's why he could probably could wrestle till he's 50 years old, because he's very calculated. He's very methodical. You look at a Randy Orton match, what's the outlay of that match, how it's going to unfold, but he's methodical and crisp, precise, and he's able to tell a story in that ring with the emotions on his face, his mannerisms. Same thing with Edge, his facial mannerisms, his expressions. I mean, just taking point, telling a story, getting the audience invested in what you're doing in the ring through storytelling. Look, at the very end, Randy Orton tells Edge, say hello to your wife, 3 kids. Tell him Uncle Randy says hi. Wow. Just something like that. That statement right there, powerful. It's probably more better than an elbow off the top rope, honestly. You could whip out the flashiness every once in a while, but you don't have to do it all the time. I think Daniel Bryan used to do that all the time, flying all over the place. And when he came back, he also adjusted. If you want to do something that you like for a long period of time, you can't just be careless. And I'm not saying that they are careless, but it's just because they want to put on the best performance possible. They want to make the audience and the crowd go home happy. But there's a different way of doing it and being able to tell your story. And I think if you're able to do both, keep the fans engaged, that's what's most important. Keeping the fans engaged and keeping the fans invested. Yeah, listen, sometimes people call a Randy Orton match boring, but listen, he elicits an emotion and a reaction from the crowd and the audience there. They're not sitting on in their hands. So he is just as successful as Ciampa. Look, how many injuries has the shelf life of Randy Orton is longer than Ciampa's. Look how many injuries Randy Orton had. Very few, if minimum at best. So I think Randy Orton is right here in this circumstance. There was talk as well too. Recently, if you guys heard the news, I'm sure you probably all heard the news, unless we've been living under a rock, where Bruce Pritchard is now in charge of SmackDown. Paul Heyman will be just focused on his in-ring position, which is the manager of Brock Lesnar. So this dude is not even going to be on the creative team anymore in Heyman. He's Dunsky, just goodbye, just completely off creative, and no in-betweens there, just gone from creative. And Eric Bischoff said that whoever, it really does not matter who's running Raw or who's running SmackDown, whether it's Heyman, Pritchard, Russo. It's all going to be the same, Bischoff says, and the reason why that is because there is one guy that oversees everything, and that's Vince McMahon. And that's true. I don't know what see, Vince McMahon, what he created is an empire. Created, well, his father started it, built the foundation, but Vince really was able to get that extra exposure that he needed, signed big talents to really put it over the edge as to where it is now, being a big part of our weekly entertainment. So I think Vince McMahon, very prideful man. And I think sometimes, kind of like, best way to describe it, kind of like, you notice how a lot of older coaches are not being hired in, like, baseball or basketball, football. A lot of these sports, a lot of these general managers now are now hiring younger guys. So if you have I don't know who's a manager. If you have I don't know, what's a famous, like an Andy Reid, who, even though he's won a Super Bowl, yes, but if you're hiring a coach for long-term future, long-term success, let's say a guy like Andy Reid, or a young guy that's 35 years old, and Andy Reid is what, 65, 70, 60, 65, right? So maybe Andy Reid is not a good impression. But if you have a young guy versus an older guy, a lot of these clubs are taking the younger guy because the younger guy could relate to the younger players. So, Vince, I think, has kind of lost his touch in a sense of he has people that have evolved with the times, but and they present, I'm sure, fresh ideas. But Vince McMahon, being that he is the end all be all, has these thoughts that have been stuck in perhaps the 80s or the 90s and they haven't evolved. That's what happens, right? As we get older, sometimes we don't evolve with the times, and kind of life, technology passes us by. And what Vince thought, I think, was young and hip and cool, what the audience wants back then, he still thinks that's the case now in 2020. You know, where the times and the viewer is different. Now, I'm sure he's still being force fed, you know, he's still being shown ratings trends, and he has all these people that do that for him, you know, show him what's sticking, what's not. But at the end of the day, I just think that he's maybe prideful, or in maybe what and we go over this over and over again. I just think that sometimes he's stubborn and set in his own ways. And you know, you could have a million great ideas. You could have writers that wrote award-winning movies, good plots, good stories, but if Vince doesn't like it, then it's not going anywhere. And even if he liked it initially, he could change it at the last minute. So if you're trying to implement or do something different than the last person did, what good is it if ultimately the main person in charge, he's the one that's putting all this through? He's getting the final say. He changes things. If his views, his theories don't change and evolve with the times, how are things going to change? So it doesn't matter who you have, there will always be a fall guy. And, you know, you can't blame, you know, the guy in charge is not going to blame himself. He's not going to blame himself. So I think ultimately, you know, that's part of the problem. You thought maybe that when that Vince McMahon was occupied with the XFL, that was kind of the opening that you needed to get some new, you know, maybe certain things will fly by. Times get overlooked because, you know, Vince is just too occupied in the XFL. Well, now that the XFL is gone, you know, you have to, well, you know, he's back doing his thing. 70-something years old and no signs of trying to retire, like trying to step down. So what are you supposed to do at that point? That is the question. What are you supposed to do? Speaking of injury, Jinder Mahal was injured again. You remember he made his brief return on TV. Kind of, to me, at first came out as a heel. You know, then they were trying to kind of change him, or they were in the process of changing him into a face. And he had to step away again because of injury. So it seems like it's a little setback. Just got cleaned up a little bit there, and it will be back on the men. No official word as to you know, how long he will be gone. But you know, that's it for Jinder Mahal back on the shelf, and you know that it's, and I'll say it again, it's that's part of the problem sometimes too. Sometimes it's through no fault of your own, just a really bad luck, bad timing, bad luck. But I think the injuries kind of they play a part too a lot of times in uh, a character, and oh, this guy's being pushed, this guy's not being pushed. Why is he being pushed? Why isn't he being pushed? So sometimes just an injury, or you know, being often injured kind of doesn't help your um, chances, because you know you're investing time, you're investing a lot of you know, money, I guess, on that character, and you always have to start with that character, because that character is you know, gets injured often. So we'll see what happens with Jinder Mahal. I think he could you know, his title reign. You know, I appreciate what they did there with the Singh brothers. I guess kind of little comedy father, but father is not the father. Father comedy, father, father. But you know, it wasn't something that I was, you know, just running and running to, you know, to be like, ah, yeah, you know, Jinder Mahal title reign, excellent. His title reign was really nothing special. I appreciate what they did with the Singh brothers. They had some funny moments there, but you know, you wait for Jinder Mahal to come back, and you see what they do with him. So back on the shelf, and looks to return very very soon. So this will conclude Cleanpin Part 1. Part 2, okay, I would like to break it up in two pieces. Part 2 will be coming your way right after this. Stay tuned.